morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Helen and today I thought I'd do an update on where I'm up to for Junior Eurovisionathon. We are now a week into the challenge and I feel like I've done really well so far. Today is day 7 and I am about halfway through my 6th book for the readathon. It does help that I had a couple of short ones to begin with and that gave me a bit of a flyer. But I was ready for this round of the readathon. It's why I do one part way through, even though I don't really watch Junior Eurovision. I love the readathon so much that I need that halfway point because I'm excited for the April round. So yeah, I'll talk through the books while I'm here. Just done the school run. I've got my cup of tea, and so yeah, let's make our way through. So the first book that I read, let me find out where I'm up to. The first one I read was one called Stay in Berlin. I'll put a picture up here. I can't remember the author, but this one was about 52 pages on Everand. It was a short story. It was basically about a woman who marries a man, I think who she knew from childhood, but she marries him in, I don't know how you say it, in absentia or in absentia. I don't know which way you say it. But I'd never heard of this until last Eurovisionathon, where I read a book for Croatia. And basically, people are allowed to get married in certain countries. I don't know if you can do it in the UK, where your bride or groom isn't there. I think in some cases they have a stand-in. So in this Croatia book, I think the fella's brother stood in as the groom. And they have that ceremony and then you go to the other country to meet them and then you just live with them. And this happened in this book. So I want to say, I can't remember where she was from originally. I want to say Nigeria. But anyway, they'd both grown up there. He'd moved to Germany for business. They decided to get married. She got married in their home country and then travelled to Germany to meet him. He met her from the airport. He was quite awkward and not how she expected him to be and very distant. And so it looks at that and how she feels being in a new country and trying to work out. I think she decides that she needs to do something with her time instead of just being stuck in and cooking for her husband. Or one time she cooks for him and he's not happy, and yeah, so anyway, she said she wants to do language classes, so he helps her to plan out the journey on the trains and everything. And then she meets somebody else and they strike up a relationship, and it's all around that. And it's a very short story, but what I would have liked is to see what happened after the end. I can't say anymore because I don't want to spoil it, but I'd have liked to see relationships develop after that and discussions happened with this other person. And yeah, so yeah, it was good. I think I gave it 3 stars because it was okay, but it didn't blow me away. And obviously it was a short story, so it would have needed more in order for me to give it more. So yeah, but if you're interested in relationships like that, I know somebody in the Discord said, oh, I'd like to read a book like that. There's the Croatia to the Cornfields one that I read, and I've put that link in there. And then there's this one, Stay in Berlin on Everand. So that was Germany ticked off. Then I read for Estonia, which I've never read for before, so that's another one ticked off my long list of countries that I want to get through. The Saviour of Lasnamäe, and this was on Everand as well, and that's by Mari Sart. I know of one other person for Eurovisionathon in the past who's read this book, so I have messaged them to say I need to talk about this because, yeah, things happen in this book that I've got questions about, and I kind of want to. I know anybody else who's read it can't give me the answers, but we can have a little bit of a chat about how we think that went. So this is basically about a woman whose daughter needs urgent medical care. They're just getting by together in Estonia with their bills and food and things like that. She had a job working in a factory and then she lost her job, and so there's not much money going around. So their daughter really needs this urgent medical care because she's been led to believe that if her daughter doesn't have this, if she doesn't have braces or doesn't have this corrected, that her jaw will just shut and stay stiff for life and she won't be able to do much talking. Or is that a thing? I know people have braces to straighten the teeth, but is there a case of if you've got like an overbite, or can that happen? or is this just somebody trying to get more money? I don't know. I'd never heard of that before. Anyway, so she needs this urgent medical care. Then she meets this. So she's got a friend who used to work in the factory with her who suggests that she comes to this house because she knows this couple who'll have work for her, and it basically means that she's basically going to be selling her body, but with clients that are supposedly high end who they choose for her. Anyway, she does take this job even though she doesn't want to, and then she builds up a relationship with one of the men who comes to see her, and they mostly talk, and then they build a relationship, and then something happens, and then you're not quite sure what's happened. This sounds really complicated, but it is interesting. And then then she decides to give up this work, and this couple are trying to get her to come back. And then another of the clients makes her an offer, and then it just ends there abruptly. And I'm like, what? This was 128 pages. I think I gave this 4-star because it was really interesting. But now I'm like, what happened? And this won like an Estonian Book Award as well. I don't think things were lost in translation, so I don't think it's that I've not understood things. I think it's left kind of like, oh, you decide. But yeah, again, I want a next book after that. I haven't seen that there is one, but if one comes out, I'm in the queue for that book. So anyway, if you've read The Saviour of Lasnamäe, this by Mari Sart, please reach out to me because I need to discuss it. So yeah, that was the second one I've read. Then I went to physical books, and I read one called The Happiest Kids in the World. Oh no, I'm jumping ahead. I read Death in Malta by Michael Pearce. And I've only just realised when I started opening this book that this is a series. So there's a dead man in, I can't remember it. Oh, I've got it here. So yeah, I opened it, ready to read. This one's 220 pages. I got this off eBay not before the last round and just didn't get a chance to read it. So I made up that I've got this ticked off my shelf. The Dead Man in series. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a dead man in Trieste, a dead man in Istanbul, a dead man in Athens, a dead man in Tangier, a dead man in Barcelona, a dead man in Naples, a dead man in Malta. So if I decide that I don't want to read my Spanish book that I've already got listed, which is Driving Over Lemons on Everand, I might pick a dead man in Barcelona. Greece isn't there this year, so I can't do that one. So yeah, there's options there. Italy, I've got one. I've got Villains in Venice on Everand, but again, if I could find a dead man in Naples, I might do that one. So yeah, I'm made up because I've got options. So this one is basically, I think I read it out on the last one. So it's set in Malta in 1913. A hot air balloon comes down and a man dies. But he doesn't die when the balloon comes down. He gets taken to the hospital. He's perfectly healthy and fine. And then he's found dead, I think a day later in the hospital after having no reason to be dead. And then it was suspected that he'd had a heart attack from shock. And it was kind of suggested, well, actually, that's not really what would happen. And then it was linked to 2 other deaths that happened to 2 other, I think it was Navy men. They were found in this hospital as well. And it's like, this is all very suspicious. Anyway, it's basically a fella's brought in from Scotland Yard to come over to Malta and to work out what's happened. And so this gentleman does that. I can't remember the name of the inspector. Oh God, it's going to take me ages to find him now. Seymour, Inspector Seymour. And he comes over and does that. So yeah, I think I gave this 3 stars because the writing wasn't great. Yeah, there was something about it that just was a bit stilted and I was a bit like, meh. But I still enjoyed the actual story and I would read others for Eurovisionathon. So yeah, that's worth a read. So I ticked Malta off. Then I moved on to the Netherlands, and you'll have remembered that I suggested that I was really keen to read this book. I've ziffited it now, so I haven't got it. But it was called The Happiest Kids in the World, and it's basically suggesting that Dutch children are happier because they've got more freedom and the way people parent and the way schools treat them. It was very interesting. I gave it 4 stars. I could see where it was coming from. You know, I do notice, not all the time, but mostly in the UK we protect our children a lot more. We are an only parent family, so I feel like we probably do that because she's our only, you know, our first. Most people say with the first one they're a lot more protective. When they have the second, they kind of let it go a bit more. I won't have that experience, so she's very much our one and only, and I suppose we do protect her quite a lot. But she's getting to that age now, she's 9, where obviously she's pushing for that independence more, so we're going to have to make sure that we definitely do that. So yeah, I'm at the right time to read that book because I'm already thinking, are we giving her enough independence, and how can we give her a bit more, and when we do give her that, she loves it. So yeah, I'm happy to discuss that with anybody if you've got any opinions on that. Always open to that. I do find it interesting that they say, you know, Dutch children are the happiest children. They say in Sweden the people in general are a lot happier because it's a lot more fair across the board in terms of work and, you know, work-life balance and men and women. And yeah, so I'm really, I could lap up books like that. What was the, yeah, because I read A Year of Living Danishly before by Helen, I can't remember her surname, but I found that really interesting. So yeah, maybe we should be taking a leaf out of some of these countries' books. But it could be worse. We could live in America at the minute. I feel so sorry for people living there, but let's not get political. That's not what this channel's for. Yeah, but I have opinions. So yeah, that was the Netherlands. And then finally, the last book I read was Among the World in 80 Men by Rebecca Ratliff, and that was for San Marino. This was book 62 in this series. I didn't know what this type of book was called. I've only recently discovered what that kind of book is called from Steph Love's channel. It's called a Why Choose book, and it's basically about a woman who has multiple suitors. So what this series is about, from what I can tell, is this girl Morgan is stood up on a date, and I think she's feeling really down, and she meets this woman called Julianne. This is just what I've gleaned from blurbs of past books, because I went back once I'd read book 62 and thought I probably need to read the whole series to kind of get a grips of the characters that run through the story. So she meets this woman called Julianne, who is basically runs a business, and I think I can use this expression because they use it in the book for call girls. And so she suggests that she's got a database of men. Again, this is on the high end spectrum of this business, where she's got very rich clients who want escorts and do want like kind of the thrills on the side, but some of them more want it for companionship. That's what I can glean anyway. But we open this book where it tells you a little bit about the previous book, which was set on the Faroe Islands. And this girl, Morgan, has had a bad experience with one of these clients, which is apparently unusual, I gather, from the book I've just read. But she was left for dead. And so I say she's recovering for this. She recovers very quickly because they don't really dwell on that. They just mention it. But she's got all these men around her, best friends and people who fell for her, and all looking out for her and supporting her. And they're all leading her to, she's supposedly, her dream is to start like her own catering and cooking business because she can cook. And so her plan is within the year to leave the call girl business. Again, using that expression because it's used in the book, but I don't know if that's politically correct. I don't know. I don't read books like this normally, so it's new to me. So yeah, she's going to leave that business and do that, but she needs to save up for a year. And she has got people in her life who say, I'll support your business, I'll give you the money now. And she's like, I'm really pleased that you're willing to do that, but I want to pay my own way. So she needs a year still in this business to get money, and then she can move on. So yeah, but there's a bit of an interesting twist in this one where the client that she's meeting seems really nice, but they know that some of his family are trying to push him out of his family business, and they find out about it, and so they're trying to protect him. And yeah, it's a bit, there's like a danger bit where it's a bit tense, and then it kind of all unravels. So I do want to read the Faroe Islands bit because I've read about parts of it, and I think I kind of need to know what happened, but it also doesn't sound very nice, so I'm like, do I really want to do that? And then I hate reading books partway through series, and because this is 62, I'm like, do I really want to go back and read the first 61? But then when I've looked, because there's so many Eurovisionathon countries within this series, I'm like, I could start from the first one, read the non-European countries, the countries that aren't in Eurovision, because I know they're not all European now, and then stop at a Eurovision one and then read that for Eurovisionathon. There's a few in a row. I think it's Australia, Italy, and another country. There's 3 in a row that I could read for Eurovisionathon. So I could get to that point and then in April read those 3. Then once Eurovisionathon's over, carry on up to another Eurovision country, and then at the next round read that one and go like that. So I might do that, because they're very quick reads. I can't remember how many pages. I want to say 150 odd, 157, something like that. So they're quick reads. They're self-published on Kindle, but they're popular. Like, from what I've read on like Goodreads and stuff, they're getting quite high ratings off people. So they've obviously got a following. So yeah, there you go. So they're the 5 that I've read, and then now I've moved on to one that I purchased on Kindle, I think for 99p, because I'd read somebody else had read this for, let me get this right, Albania. So it's called The Unexpected Mrs. Polyfax. This is a series, so I'd be able to again read others if I wanted to, but I don't know what countries they're set in. This one starts in Mexico. It's basically about a woman. I want to say it's set in the 80s, because I think they're when they're published. But she's in her 60s. She's in a place in her life where she's I think she's lonely, because she does lots of volunteering and things, but it's not fulfilling her. She goes to different things every day, but she's just had enough. And this one day she's planting her geraniums on the roof of her building, and she goes to the edge of the building and she's considering ending her life. And one of her neighbours sees her and shouts her, and she stops. But she doesn't really care what happens to herself, and she just needs some kind of oomph in her life. You can tell she's just had enough. She has got 2 grown-up children, but they've moved away, and she's got grandchildren. At one point in this story, her daughter says, because what happens is, she goes to the CIA, she finds where the officers are, and she turns up, this 60-year-old woman, quite eccentric in what she's wearing, and she turns up and she goes, I want to be a spy. And this fella just kind of is dumbstruck and like, this isn't how it works. We come and find you if we want you. And she's like, how are they going to find me in New Jersey? Do you know what I mean? So he leaves the office, and then this other gentleman from higher up in the building is waiting for the gentleman who she's just spoke to tell him when a woman's turned up who's going to be a spy for them in this job. Anyway, it gets a bit mixed up, and somehow this woman, Mrs. Polyfax, ends up being brought on for a job in Mexico as like a, what's the word? Like, she's going to, courier. So she's going to pick up a package and she's going to get it into the country. But she has to turn up in Mexico, have a holiday for 3 weeks, and look like she's just a regular tourist. She's going to go to the shop and collect something, and then she's going to bring it back with her after another week. So that's the plan. He tells her there's not really any danger involved. They don't train her up or anything. They just say, this is what you're going to do. But then once she's gone, they realise that a lot of the agents who are also involved in this work and are going to get the package to where it needs to be picked up have been going missing. And then one turns up dead. And so Mrs. Polyfax then ends up being abducted and taken to Albania, and that's where I'm up to. So it's interesting. I'm enjoying it at the minute. I'd say it's about a 4-star, but I do care what happens to Mrs. Polyfax. And so we'll see. I forgot to mention, just before Mrs. Polyfax, I picked up my book for Ireland. So From Ireland with Love by Liz Hurley. This is one that I've had for a while. You'll have seen it on a few Eurovisionathon lists. It's similar to how I felt about My Family and Other Animals by Gerard Durrell. Is that Gerald Durrell? I had that on my list for ages for Greece. The last round of Eurovisionathon, I picked it up to read it for Greece. I got a few pages in and thought, no, I can't be doing with this flowery writing. This isn't for me. And so that went off the list. And I thought, why have I beat myself up for about 4 rounds of this readathon that I haven't read this book? And then I do go to do it. Same with this one. I got 7 pages in. I know that's not a lot. However, this is the 4th book in the series, and I didn't realise, and it's on a group of sisters. And there's about 8, 9, 10 characters mentioned in the first 7 pages of this book with no backstory. And again, I was watching Steph Love's channel the other day, and she was talking about quite big fantasy books, but she said she found a book the other day where it gave you like the author had basically done about 3 or 4 pages just telling you what had gone on in the last book or in the series so far. And Steph said that she appreciated that because she's waiting now with a series where she'd read the first 3 books and she's going to wait. She thinks it's a 10-book series possibly, and she's going to wait till all the rest are out so she can binge watch them because she gets sick of reading the books before them again and again. I did that with The Year Affair by Jasper Fforde. Every time it come for a new book coming out, because you waited a while for the next one, I'd have to go back and read all the rest. And I've read that series multiple times because I had to keep going back. I'm due a reread of that series. I'm pretty sure that's finished now, so I need to go back and just remind myself, because at one point I was saying he was my favourite author, which he was because I loved those books so much. But I can't say that now because I've read it that long ago and I don't reread it that often. So yeah, due a reread. However, I think authors in general, it would be really helpful if they do a series, even if it's like a romance one, where they just give you a bit of a backstory or a bit of a family rundown of who the people are. Because after the 7 pages of this book, I thought, I don't care. I know it's going to focus on one sister as the story goes on, but in this beginning bit, there's a backstory to this. The parents are dead, and they talk about that, and you know, it's stuff that was gleaning, but I was like, I don't know who that one is. Is that one's husband, or is that? I just needed a little bit of a rundown. So yeah, 7 pages, give it up. I won't be reading that for Ireland. So I haven't got an Ireland book planned at the moment, and it doesn't matter because I've still got Armenia, Cyprus, France, Georgia, Ireland now, Italy, North Macedonia, Poland, Portugal, Spain and Ukraine, and I've got to fit them in the next 9 days. So I've got enough to be going on with. However, if you've got an Irish book that's quite a quick one and you think I'll really like it and it's not partway through a series, by all means suggest it below. I should also mention that I had a book pinned for Cyprus. I think it was about 70 pages on Everand, and it's called Cyprus, the Island of Saints. You'll see me mention it. Sorry, my cat's just running and you're balanced on the arm of a chair. Hello, will you come in? Come down here then. Oh, hello everyone. Don't show your butt again, please. Right, so I'm not reading that Cyprus book because when I went to look and start it, it's very much like a travel guide. And, you know, I'm not saying I'll never go to Cyprus, but it's not somewhere I'm desperate to go. And even if it was somewhere I was desperate to go, I don't think I'd find it that interesting to read about that country in that way for Eurovisionathon. So yeah, Cyprus is a no-go as well. So again, if you've got a Cyprus book that you would like to suggest, please do. So that's where I'm up to. I'm up to book 6 on day 7. I think that's good going. I've had somebody on Twitter put a list of their books that they're going to read. There's 3 there that they were going to read. One of them is The September Girls for Malta, which was a book that we were going to read one time for Eurovisionathon Book Club. So if you've read that or you're interested, go on Twitter. You'll find Marissa. If you put hashtag Eurovisionathon, you'll see her picture on there. I know Ellie from Earl Grey Books is taking part in the readathon, and she put her TBR up, so go and have a look there. I know there's multiple other people taking part, but I think because there's only 16 days to go, I think people might just pick 2 or 3 books, longer books, so might not register yet. And also I have got people who take part in the readathon who only register the books at the very end. So yeah, leading into the second week, starting with Albania, and who knows where I'll go from then. But hopefully in a week's time, well, I say a week's time, it won't be a week's time. I'll have to come partway through the week because I've only got, this finishes on the 16th. So maybe I'll come in a few days' time if I've read enough books and let you know how I go. This does tend to go with me. My plan is to do, in the April readathon, I tend to hope to do a wrap-up every week. I do the first week and then I forget after that, and then just do a wrap-up at the end. So you may just get a wrap-up at the end. But while I was here, I'd done the school run. I didn't have anything particular planned today apart from reading. I thought I would come and chat with you. So thank you for listening. Yeah, any suggestions, list them below, and I will speak soon. Bye.